Hello and welcome to Sim Radio here on the Sisters in Music Network. It's Monday Music Madness and you're tuned into Mixing It with Nicki Kris. This is Nicki, and in case you don't know anything about me, I'm a singer-songwriter from Raleigh, North Carolina. My show celebrates women in the music and entertainment industry, providing an avenue for them to showcase their talents. Our motto, Sisters in Music, together we are stronger. My guest today is a singer-songwriter who loves connecting with people through music. Born in Omaha, Nebraska, and raised in Northern California, she believes that music is a perfect vehicle for sharing stories, and after years of telling other people's stories as a musical theater performer, she is finally telling stories of her own. She is absolutely fabulous, and I'm so excited to share her with you. So please join me in welcoming the wonderful Maureen Grace. Welcome to Mixing It, Maureen. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me, Nicki. It's a pleasure to be here.
You are most welcome, and thank you for taking the time out to meet with me today.
Oh, yes.
Let's kick things off with a general basic question, but, very important. Why don't you tell us about yourself and how you got started in music?
Okay, well, it's not a linear journey. It's been basically a roller coaster. As we spoke a little bit earlier, as a child, I loved music, grew up around music. I had uncles that were musicians, and they would play a wide range of music, a lot of rock, and my mom loved disco. And so they were musicians, and I listened to them, and there were times I would sing and dance, even write little songs. I remember hearing Del Shannon's Runaway and loving that so much that I remember just sitting downstairs in the basement one time and trying to come up with my own little version of that. And I think I must have been about 7 years old, but fast forwarding through time, we moved to Northern California. My mom was a single mom, and she got us involved in some sort of music in whatever way she could. So she got me a flute. And I was in elementary school. My brother had a clarinet. I had a flute. My sister was more interested in the singing and the choir type thing. And I just started playing flute in elementary and through junior high. I also started getting involved in drama in junior high and was in a lot of plays. And then I started to play through marching band and then also in church. My mom, she came to a faith and brought us into that faith young, and so I ended up learning to play alongside some fabulous musicians in the church. One of them was Tony Bolivar. He was an inspiration, taught me a lot about flute. He's a saxophone and flute player. Learned alongside of them. And then in my 20s, I left pretty much all of the worship and all of that sort of thing and got married and started a family. And when you get busy with kids, I had 3 children, I would intermittently help with things at church or get involved in a musical here and there. My husband knew how much that fed my soul. He said, go do a musical. And so there was a long period where I just didn't do much at all. And now, you fast forward to now, my children are grown. I started to have a really kind of, I wouldn't say it's a dark night of the soul. That's probably too extreme. But I had a family member who really started to have, through a traumatic experience, really struggled, and they were very close to me, and they are very close to me, and it took me down to such a deep level of concern and worry that it was almost physical. And I would wake up in the mornings and just have a tune going through my head and have words, phrases going through my head. So I just started to grab my phone and sing into my voice recorder. And then in my 40s, I started to learn piano. And so my husband bought me a piano, and I started to just plunk out tunes, these tunes that I was hearing in my head, try to match what I'd woken up with. And my husband and I had just gone on a trip, anniversary trip, and I woke up with this tune, and it was basically a very simple piano tune, and the phrase real love and steel love and walking through fire love, things like that were coming to my head. So I just started to write it down and play it. And it was like being transported into another reality. You know, when you're writing and you're playing and something starts to gel and you're like, wow, this is coming together so beautifully. I want to keep going with this. And I a lot of my brother Drew, he's a musician as well, who I just respect so much and has inspired and cheered me along. I played it for him. I played for my husband first, and they were both like, you have to do something with this. And took it from there. And I have another friend I met him when I was probably 16. His name's Chris Canojo, and he's the producer that produced the song. And he's been a phenomenal musician involved with his own music and part of a band called One Groove. And I played it for him. And I felt it was vulnerable to play this because it was a pretty intimate song. And he was like, nope. He was just immediately, let's get this going. And he came right alongside me and was just amazing. He pieced things out. He broke things down and said, we need this here, we need that there. And he just took a person who woke up with a with a tune in her head and finally polished every little things of coal and just polished it beautifully. And then we put it out there to the world. And then eventually Bright Christmas Eve came along that following year, and I have more music in the works now, but I absolutely love creating in this way. And I know that sounds weird, but sometimes pain and things like that can produce good things.
Well, you're exactly correct. Sometimes pain can actually produce so many wonderful things. And I love the description that you gave in the background and the history about the song. You were talking about Real Love, and that's actually, we're going to be sharing that later on in the show, which is awesome because we've gotten a really great overview of how that's been created. But it's interesting because I have actually heard you say quite a few things that are actually very parallel with my life as well. Interested in music, didn't really pursue it, kind of put it on hold, did like the real life thing, and then something happens and you're like, ooh, I need an outlet and I need a way to express myself. And a lot of people that I have recently interviewed, it's the same type of scenario where they didn't really pursue music, or they did it on the side and weren't really like gung-ho 110%. And now, all of a sudden it's like, you know what, this is my passion. I need to do this. I need an outlet. I need to be able to embrace this creative side of me. And hey, music is timeless. It's my age-old philosophy of it doesn't matter how old you are. We talked a little bit about this before the show started recording, is that I really find, and am not afraid to say it, I really find that the industry is very age discriminatory, age and visually discriminatory, I guess, even if that's a category. But you have to look a certain way. You have to be a certain age, and you have to produce this type of music. My philosophy has always been like, you know what? I listen to music, and sometimes I want to listen to music of people maybe my own age or a little bit younger or maybe even a little bit older, because they're going to have a different perspective on things. I don't always want to listen to the same type of music that like my kids are listening to because I don't like it. Right? Yeah. There's a whole market that I think is being completely underexploited.
It's like you're throwing out a treasure trove. Yep, it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're just
but
overlooking
we're the ones that actually are making money and have jobs and can actually go and like pay for concert tickets.
Well, sometimes just some of those life experiences that come out onto paper and in the song and the level of musicianship that comes across with people, you're throwing out so much when you're only thinking of something that sells. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's relatability and so I just think that it is sad that it's such a shallow view of music, and I don't think it always was that way. I think thinking about the 70s artists and things like that, before they all started to hack themselves up and look like Bratz dolls or whatever. They looked like genuine people. They had real lines in their face. They had real teeth. They had And along with that organic look came beautiful organic music, something from their heart and their soul. And I almost feel like my children tell me all the time, they go back and they listen to songs from the 80s and the 70s and some of the early 90s, but more of and they say, man, there's just such great stuff. I go, yeah, it's because it hasn't been, I don't know, it's probably a wrong word to say, but it hasn't been bastardized, so to speak. I know that might sound harsh.
Yep.
But
no,
yeah.
It's actually a fair statement.
At the risk of sounding like one of those older people going, these kids' music these days, there are some gems. There are some people out there still creating good stuff, but it's really hard to sift through all the fluff, like you say, the
noise,
the canned music that's out there just to, like you say, appeal to a certain generation and to sell something. There's still good musicians out there, and they're up and coming, and I think there is a return, a longing with the younger generation to go back to some authenticity and some real musicianship. People just getting up on a stage and playing, good, bad, and ugly in all, and you're hearing the sound. The pendulum will swing back. I'm hoping. In some circles.
Some circles, yes. You mentioned "Runaway" by Del Shannon as a track that influenced you in one way, shape, or form. Do you have any other specific musical influences that you tend to draw from?
Well, I'm 70s baby, so again, I would say that 70s music. I'm all over the place with, like I said, my uncles were really into Boston. They even had I think Kiss, and they had all kinds of that. So I had that rock element, and then my mom loved things like a disco, Donna Summer. I remember listening to Donna Summer as a child and just being mesmerized. That her voice and the beat. So there was like a pre-techno, Giorgio Moroder and Donna Summer. I listened to them, and then in the 80s, when my mom, she kind of got caught up in the whole really, really extreme Christian thing where we were not allowed to listen to those songs anymore. Here I am, I'm 10 to 13, and I'm listening to Journey and Def Leppard's just coming out and all these amazing things. And she's like, nope, no more. And we get cut off and we get put into the Christian music world. That was what we were allowed to listen to. So then my influences changed. And I end up listening to Randy Stonehill and Steve Taylor, and it was such a wide range. We're talking Praise Strings and Twyla Paris and Leslie Phillips and Amy Grant, of course. She was like the main influence, and she was a huge influence on me as well. And but Russ Taff, just so many amazing Christian musicians. They were having quite a heyday in the 80s with their music, and so my influences were so eclectic. I can't name one specifically, but I learned so much from all of them. And you can probably hear that when you hear Real Love. It's definitely got more of I have been told it's got an 80s influence. And I'm like, yeah, baby, it does. And I'm proud of it.
Those are really, really great. And yes, I'm a big Amy Grant fan as well. I listened to her growing up also. And I'm also a fan of a lot of current Christian artists. I absolutely love Lauren Daigle. Absolutely adore her. Oh, adore her.
That boy.
Adore
My
her
goodness.
to pieces. Yes.
Yeah. That just sends chills at certain moments in her music. Yes. Beautiful, beautiful voice.
She's one of those. Yes, absolutely. One of those gems. So This is actually a really, really, really great place for us to share the first song. I would like to actually talk about Bright Christmas because I do believe it is your most recent release, and I'm a huge fan of Christmas in July. I absolutely love that, and I love Christmas too. No, I think it's awesome. I love Christmas music because yours in particular, and I'm going to tag on this after we hear why a Christmas song, why releasing it now, actually, and I kind of have a feeling I know why, but anyway, tell us a little bit about this track.
That is just another of just sitting at the piano, and didn't wake up with it, but you know how you get a little earworm in your ear and you just hear a riff and you just start humming it along. And then it was, around December the previous year, and I was just reflecting on my personal faith, the goodness of God, and how I see it everywhere. It reminds me sometimes I don't God doesn't just show up to me in in the room or talk to me audibly, but I see so much of Him in everything, and in creation and in small details in life. You know how they call these things glimmers. You ever go through your day and you're like, look for a glimmer in your day, like a beautiful flower or somebody treats you really well at a restaurant, or you just have this great conversation with somebody, or just a genuine surprise. And I feel like He's in these little moments. And so as I was thinking of those moments, I just started to write that song. And it came out much simpler because I'm a much simpler piano player, but played it for my husband, and he's like, I have a buddy who plays piano, and we looked for a couple different people to play piano, but it fell upon my husband's friend Ruben, and Ruben took that little simple piano piece I did, and he just played it beautifully, that beautiful classical, that piano that you hear. And of course my friend Chris he laid it out on the track the way you hear it. And Chris is just a genius that way. He really just layered it so beautiful. So it was just basically a thank you and a recognition that, God's in the small things. He did what He did for us, but He's also in the little moments. When you go to the ocean and you see things there, or you go and you see the waves and you smell the air and the ocean air. I meant for it to be something for people to just think on the little moments, those glimmers that happen in your life that remind you that, God's there. And that's kind of what the whole inspiration of the song was.
Well, I absolutely love it. And we are now going to play this for everyone. So here it is. This is Bright Christmas by Maureen Grace.
Night has fallen, the moon is aglow. Its beams are glistening on hills fresh with snow. The breeze feels chilly as it rustles the trees. I see so much beauty this bright Christmas Eve. I know you're here with every snowflake that falls. You're here in moonbeams and breezes that call to me with gentle reminders that say the wonders of you will be with me always. Gave hope to the hopeless and sin-weary soul. A star was there shining to guide through the night. It led them to you, Jesus, light of all lights. You're here, shining through darkness of night. You're here, giving us hope that burns bright. Your voice, it rings out and beckons us all. Creation, all things great and small. The sweet hope from above. Through Jesus, our Savior, the one who is love.
Like I mentioned, I love Christmas in July, and I am actually going to give you a little tidbit. A friend of mine uses the same type of methodology for a lot of her music, like she likes to call them God winks.
Oh, that's cool. I haven't heard that before. God winks.
She uses that phrase all the time. She's like, it's a God wink, and I'm like, yes, it's a God wink. So it works out really, really well. But I love this because one of the things that struck me right away with this track, and I don't know if you did it intentionally or not, and I don't know if you're working on these things or not, but this is literally the perfect track for sync licensing. I don't know if you're doing any of those things or trying to get some of your tracks placed in film and television shows, but this is literally such a syncable track. If you're not doing that, you should definitely look into it.
I should. I had no idea. I put it out there. I did have someone comment. I had on that and made a comment to me later on saying that would be great in this or that. And I thought, oh, okay. But no, it wasn't intentional. But yeah, I'd love to, pursue that. That would be cool. It was just put out there from the heart, and hope that would play out well and wherever it's supposed to go.
Yes, wherever the God wink needs to be. Let's just put it that way.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, these days we definitely could use some God winks.
Yeah, definitely could. I'm with you there. Absolutely.
I like that. I'm going to use God winks in the future. That's really cool.
I'm going to give my friend Amy credit for that phrase because she definitely uses that all the time. So thank you, Amy, for that little God wink phrase because we use
it Amy.
in our conversations. I would like to tap into a little bit about the creative endeavors and things like that. Everybody has their own reason for wanting to create, wanting to put music out there. We chatted a little bit about your history, how you kind of started, were always interested in music, but then kind of waited and got into it later in life. Now you're creating, doing a lot more in pursuit of those endeavors. Is there a specific reason that you want to put your music out there?
It's a difficult question in the sense that I don't have an actual target in front of me of why, other than when I start to write and I put a song on paper, there are certain songs that I'm just compelled to see it through. And my only reason is that maybe there are people out there that relate to this and this song will somehow bolster them up or just inspire them or just help them along, whatever journey they're on in their life. And like I say on my website, I love to connect with people through music because I believe that, like you, music, it can transport you. It can help you just through so many difficult things. It's just a gift. And if I have any small little gift that I can pass on to people that will either inspire or just bless them or just make them feel a little better, or a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me, life can be difficult, and music just smooths out the bumps in the road so much. And I feel like that's my main reason for putting music out there is I love to create it. I feel like I'm in my sweet spot in one respect, and for years it was theater, and I do still love theater, musical theater and theater, but music is just creating music is just it's a joy to me. And so, yeah, that's my main reason for doing it, just putting it out to the world and letting people do with it what they will, hopefully be a positive thing.
Well, that totally works for me. I'm sure, it does. I mean, it totally works for me. And keeping that in mind, is there anybody potentially that you might be interested in collaborating with or working with in the future?
Oh, my goodness. I'm so open to collaborating with other artists of faith. I'm open to collaborating with let me see. Off the bat, give me Chris Stapleton. I'd take that voice any day. I would collaborate with, right? People and Bonnie Raitt. Oh, my gosh. Absolutely adore her. I just can't tell her how much she has inspired me with her music and her voice and her storytelling. So many. There's just too many artists to mention. But, yeah, I'm open to collaboration. I love co-writing and creating something beautiful with people. That's the fun of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to manifest Bonnie Raitt and Chris Stapleton. We're manifesting it. Manifesting. I'm putting it out there.
I will back you up.
Yes. We need some God winks in that area. All right. With that, this is a great place for us to take a short break here from a word from one of our partners in podcasting, this Chatting with Nat. And we'll be right back on Mixing It with Nicki Kris on the Sim Radio Network.
Chatting with Nat is a podcast for independent women seeking to speak their truth and to break down barriers. We host honest conversations that help to guide and empower women. Speak your truth and set yourself free. Let your voice be heard.
And we're back on Mixing It with Nicki Kris on the Sim Radio Network. And my guest, singer-songwriter Maureen Grace. We talked a lot about writing songs, potentially songwriting process, stuff like that, how you get started with some of the songs that we're actually sharing today, hearing a melody in your head, hearing some notes in your head, things like that. Do you have like a specific, more formalized process potentially that you might follow, or is it just very ad hoc? Most of us do a lot of like ad hoc things. It just happens when it happens. But, you could have a formal process. If you do, I'd really love to hear about it. And then also, keeping that in mind, songwriting tip or trick that maybe you might use if you get writer's block or anything like that you might want to share with our listeners.
I definitely fall into the latter category where I piece things together. It's usually some form of inspiration, whether it's just a riff that I hear in my head and words that flow with that riff, and then I go with it. But more towards the end of the process is when I start to refine and go back and work on, phrasing and words and things that may or may not work. And that's where the detailed process of, this doesn't sound right, or what would fit better, or wow, this one has much more meaning. I'm gonna put this punch in there. But I'm still quite new to a lot of that, and I just enjoy the process of like putting a puzzle together. And when I run into a block, I'll take a break. I'll take a break from it. And this is going to sound so completely cliche, and I don't know why this is. I don't know if the blood flow gets to your brain more, but I'm in the shower. I'll be in the shower, and I'll be singing, and a phrase that I've been looking for the last 2 months or something like that will literally just flow out. It'll just come out, and I'm like, there it is. I need to write this down. For me, it's not a strict, structured process. And for others, it really is, and I enjoy collaborating with them that way because they can shed light on things that might be a little too, I guess, wonky, or something that's not. It's just too. It's not cohesive enough. And some of the time, the people that are more structured and they rely on format, they help me along that way. And that's Chris. That's my brother Andrew, definitely. I've also had my friend Luke Easter. We went to school together. He's a prominent artist. He was with the band Tourniquet for years, and he's now living in Nashville with his beautiful wife Kelly, and he's creating music and doing wonderful things there. He's given me some tips with music and with marketing and other things too. But I guess my process would say I don't really have a cohesive process. I go with the flow. I write things down, and then I show it to people, and then we hone it from there. And when I'm frustrated, I definitely take breaks. I take a break because it shouldn't be painstaking. I feel like if it gets to the point where it's painstaking, you just cut off the airflow. You know what I'm saying?
But you know what? That actually is a really, really good tip, because a lot of people don't realize that it's okay to walk away. If you're stuck on a lyric line, or you're trying to get something to fit into a melody and it's just not working correctly, there is nothing wrong with literally walking away, taking a break, let it air out, let it sit, don't worry about it, and then coming back with like a fresh new perspective. So I actually think that is a very, very important statement. And
well, it's helped me. I don't know.
For people.
I
think it's great. Awesome. Before we get to Real Love, which we talked a little bit about in the beginning of the show, do you have any new music that might be coming up? Anything that you're currently working on that you might want to share with us? What do you currently have in the pipeline?
I have a couple of different songs that one song is just talking about, it's called One Thing at a Time. It's completely written. It just needs to go into the production process. And that song is a lot about just stopping and slowing down and just what we've started talking about, allowing the flow of life a little bit and to not overthink, not stress, not worry. I definitely tend to be an overthinker. And so this song is about just letting it go, and things are going to be okay. And sometimes you don't know what to say. Sometimes you don't know what to do. But if you take a little step back, you'll get some inspiration. You'll get a direction, even if it's just put one foot in front of the other. That is okay, and a path will come to light. That's one song that I'm definitely ready to get to work on. I also have a couple of other more faith-based songs that I want to put out there. These days, I feel like you can it's carte blanche. You can do these things. Back in the 80s, you were either a Christian artist or you weren't. And I feel like you can be a believer and still create songs that just talk about life. And then you can also, create faith-based songs, songs of worship or songs of, something reflecting on your faith. But I like that you can do both these days, whereas years ago, people just didn't accept that. They were like, oh, you can't talk about having anxiety, and then, you know what I'm saying? You can't do that. You have to talk about your faith only, and it has to be this little cookie-cutter thing, and that is just not true today, and it's not authentic. It's not real, and I feel like, being transparent and real is important, at least at this stage in my life.
That's great. Well, we can't wait for you to get those all situated and out to the world and released and everything. But in the meantime, let's quickly circle back on the second song that you brought with you before we play it for everyone. Is there anything else that you would like to share about Real Love?
Real Love started as a reflection upon how relationships start. And again, going back to being transparent, growing up in a faith-based community, it was so very strict, and I would never have admitted some of the things that I talk about in the first verse of this song, where, when you're young and you're in love and you're kind of idealistic, and your reality is just kind of based a lot on your age, and so the intensity of emotion, the intensity of young love, and all the crazy, whirlwind of that happening to you. That's how this relationship started, and I wanted to be real about that. And then in the middle of it starting, there was still moments where I felt like there was more to this than just the intensity of physical attraction, the intensity of just young love. There was something more to it. And I followed that. We both followed. We chose to follow it. And through lots of craziness. I mean, our first years in our marriage were pretty difficult, to people adjusting to each other and baggage and, all of that sort of thing. And then as time went on, children came, and every marriage has issues, but just you're walking through that fire, and there's a refinement that takes place. And I believe that because we were constantly going, well, marriage it takes more than two people. A cord of three strands is not quickly broken. And I believe that, that leaning on God and also just, the connection that we had with one another, it's just kind of changed over time. It's just grown and deepened, and now it's bigger than us. I think that's the thing about, long-term marriages. Have you ever heard about people that have split up after being together for a long time? Sometimes it's like a real deep piercing, of your soul. It's like, wow, what happened? The breakdown of this union. And so as this relationship is deepened, I'm just really profoundly grateful for it, and I express that in the song. I express how grateful I am that we pressed on through times where we didn't want to go on. One of us or both of us. And I know that there is supernatural help in that, in my personal belief. And I just wanted to put that out there for people that, long-term relationships, they survive a lot. They go through a great deal. And when you meet someone that's been together for a long time, there's something really, really beautiful about that. But it's also know that they went through their own battle. They've gone through their own thing. And when I played this for my husband, and he was like, "Yeah," he goes, "Boy, this is pretty much us." And yes,
spot on.
yeah. So I knew that putting it out there would be people that said, "Yeah, oh yeah, we've been through the fire, we've been through it, man." And the fact that we're on the other side, it's like, wow, that's God's grace alone. And also just something here that's worth holding on to and treasuring and preserving. So, yeah.
Well, it is an absolutely beautiful song, and we are going to play it for everyone. So here it is. This is Real Love by Maureen Grace.
We met, deep attraction, eyes locked, strong reaction. We're alone in a crowded room. Time spent together was never enough. We'd drive all night for just one touch. This rush was powerful and new. It was a young love, a magnetizing crush of love, such intense desire, love, walking on a high, love. The passion burned, love, our hearts could not return to anything but this love. We both knew this could be real love. Years passed, so many changes. We grew up, days were filled with babies, work, house, and bills. Time sped, each memory we made gave us a stronger will to stay. Build on this love that grew stronger each day. We built a real love, now more than just a feel love, the kind that's strong as steel love, made one from what was two. Walk through fire, love, come out the other side, love, still holding each other tight, love. You've got me, baby, I've got was made from something real. It's stronger, more than what we feel. It's lasted through the test of time.
Like I mentioned, it is absolutely beautiful. And one of the things that I always know when a song is like absolutely spectacular is I get goosebumps. You know how you're like listening to something, you're just like, oh, get those goosebumps. And I have listened to this song several times, and every single time it gives me goosebumps. So absolutely fantastic song. And extremely well done. The production is really great. You sound absolutely fantastic on it. So wonderful, wonderful song.
No, thank you. Like you say, a lot of time went into those words.
Yeah.
And I don't mean writing them. I mean, wow, experience.
You mean years.
Yes. You called it.
It's definitely a good one. All right. Well, before we sign off, before we run out of time, is there anything else you would like to share with our listeners? You know, where can they find you on social media? Anything else that you would like to put out into the universe?
Well, you know, you can find me on all the standard Instagram, Maureen Grace Music. You can find me on Facebook, Maureen Grace. I have my page. You can also find me on my website, MaureenGraceMusic.com. And yes, I'd love to grow and work with other musicians and continue moving forward in this this unexpected later in life musical journey that I'm on. I'm super grateful for it. And, you know, I want to say to people, you know, there's room for everybody in the music world. And when we start giving space to people of all ages, of all backgrounds, I think that can only make music even more beautiful, and it can only make our world more beautiful. And I think that's important too, to give everybody that wants to put their voice out there a voice. That might be a little bit, you know, pie in the sky, but I do believe that can happen, and I've seen it happen in certain circles, so I'm going to keep hoping.
We're going to manifest that because I agree with you 110%. I said it early on. We talked about it even before the show. I wholeheartedly support that methodology and philosophy. So manifesting that into the universe. So with that, I would like to thank my wonderful, awesome guest, Maureen Grace, for taking the time to chat with me today. It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, all of you, for tuning in to Mixin' It. On behalf of all of us here at Sim Radio, this is Nicki Kris. Until next time, keep on mixing it.